We're going to start looking at content management systems now, and I want to focus in this video on what a content management system is and why we use them, and to a lesser extent, why we might not want to use them. So at the current moment, I would say most websites, or definitely most large websites, are built using a content management system. And the main thing to understand is that with a content management system or with a CMS, what we're doing is we are managing content separate from the code to display that content. So content management systems really got started with blogging software. So WordPress is probably the most well-known content management system. It started off as blogging software. And the idea was that you would manage the content of your blog separate from the code to display that content. So prior to this in this class, or just in the history of web development, if you wanted to run a blog, you might just open your HTML editor and write an HTML page for each of your blog posts. But when we start using a CMS like WordPress, we're going to manage those posts separate than the HTML. So if we look here at a sample post in WordPress, I'm going to give the post like a title, for example, here. And I'll give the post some content here, and I'm not writing HTML at this stage. And what that means is that this content can appear all sorts of different ways on my site because it's not tangled up in HTML code. So if I want to change the way my site looks in the future, because there isn't an HTML page for every blog post, I can change how it looks really easily. So if you imagine, like, say you're running a newspaper site, you're going to have thousands and thousands, maybe tens of thousands of articles on that site. I would much rather manage that content in a content management system like this than I would have tens of thousands of HTML pages that I'm trying to manage and that become unmanageable over time. So if we start to think about why this is a good way of doing things, one of the main advantages is that multiple users can now add content. So maybe you're a web developer for a company and you set up the company's website, but other people in the company will want to add or change the content on the website. Anybody can log in and make a change to this. It's just kind of like using Microsoft Word. Whereas if your content is all connected to HTML, then you need someone who has web development skills to modify that content. So a lot of organizations will have a website, will update the website and change it themselves, but won't necessarily have someone on staff who knows HTML or who's writing HTML every day. So that can be a huge benefit. Similarly, like if I'm making a website for a client, I don't want to go in and change the content for the client every time they want a change made, and they don't want to pay me every time they want a change made. So I build the website using WordPress, and then I just turn it over to them, and they can make the changes that they need to because they don't have to write HTML. Another reason we would use a content management system like WordPress is just content scale and longevity. So I was talking about a newspaper earlier. If you're going to have tens of thousands of content items or pages, you want to be in a content management system. You don't want to be writing HTML for every one of those pages. Also, if you're a newspaper or magazine, you're going to want the way that your website looks to change over time, right? It's gonna need to modernize. And so when you store your content like this, it can look any way in the future, and it's still the same content, so you retain that value over time. Content management systems will also offer you some really nice advanced features that you might not be able to implement yourself using just HTML. Things like content search is really easy. Pagination, if you're going to have like 10 pages of blog posts. WordPress makes it really easy to set up an e-commerce site. So if you want to set up a store for yourself or for a client, you install a plugin by WooCommerce. It's very easy. You can take payments, do shipping, everything through WordPress. And at the very kind of advanced end, you can really turn WordPress or other content management systems into very customized systems for a particular business. So when I'm working for a client, Say I'm working for an architecture studio that has projects. I can set it up so that they can add projects, and or if I'm working for a car company, I can set it up so they're storing information about the different kinds of cars as content. So WordPress really is a very deep system that can get very advanced if you want to put the time into learning it. The really only disadvantages to using a content management system is balancing flexibility and how long you're going to want to use the content, right? So if the content on the site isn't necessarily going to need to be used for a long time, if it's just, say it's your personal homepage and you know that you're going to redo it in 3 months, then there's not a lot of reason not to use HTML if you're comfortable designing an HTML and can turn out a page that looks good. Um, we'll also talk in future videos about themes, and themes are the way that your content appears, right? So you'll install a theme. And one potential disadvantage to WordPress is that it's great when the themes are working for you, when they do what you want them to do, and it becomes less great when the themes maybe aren't exactly working for the kind of site that you want. So if you're the kind of person who wants lots and lots and lots of design flexibility, or who has a very unusual design, these are times when content management systems are less appropriate. But otherwise, for lots and lots of websites, WordPress or another content management system should probably your default, what you default to.